Picture this, right fucking now. While the Yukon night is still bleeding black ice and the Klondike River is coughing up bones older than the Queen's corgis. Tony Beets, the Dutch-Canadian warlord who once told a Category 5 blizzard to go fuck itself and then strip mine the storm for spare change. The man who dragged a 1915 bucket line dredge out of a mosquito-infested swamp with nothing but a winch, a prayer, and a vocabulary that could make a sailor blush, just got inhaled by his own steel. Behemoth like the machine decided it was done eating dirt and wanted a taste of the man who fed it for 20 seasons. And the entire Paradise Hill crew is still standing around with frost-crusted beards and coffee that tastes like battery acid, trying to decide if their boss got quantum fucked into another dimension, possessed by some ancient Klondike curse, or simply walked into the dredge's belly to negotiate a better royalty rate with whatever the hell lives down there. It all detonated on a morning so brutally ordinary it should have come with a trigger warning. The kind where the cold punches you in the soul and keeps its fist there. Fog squatting on the claim like a chain-smoking hobo who paid rent in 1898 and never left. Crew shambling around in Carhartts stiff enough to stand on their own. Tin mugs steaming like factory chimneys in hell. Grunting monosyllables because full sentences burn calories and calories are worth more than gold when the mercury's kissing -40. Tony's prowling the cut like a Viking berserker on Red Bull. Black cap yanked low enough to hide the devil in his eyes. Boots punching the permafrost like he's personally offended by geology. Ears tuned to every cough, sputter, and hydraulic fart in the orchestra of destruction. Everything humming sweeter than a fresh jar of KY until the dredge. That rust-flecked iron kraken he resurrected from the dead with nothing but curses and a welding torch lets out a sound that doesn't belong in any language known to man or machine. A low, wet, dragging groan like something with too many elbows is trying to crawl out of its own grave and brought chains for the ride. Rick hears it first. Coffee freezing mid-drip off his mustache like a stalactite of regret. The noise slithering from the dredge's guts like a sewer rat on steroids. It's not the usual conveyor belt burp or bucket chain hiccup. It's primordial, heavy, the kind of sound a mountain makes when it decides to shrug. Tony freezes mid-stride, head cocked like a wolf that just smelled sea. 4. Barks, any of you dickheads catch that? And the crew goes quieter than a nun in a brothel, because when Tony asks a question in that register, you either answer or start practicing your resume in crayon. The sound keeps pulsing, thump-scrapey, steady as a dying heart on life support, vibrating through every rivet like the dredge just grew a circulatory system, and it's circulating pure nightmare fuel. Then reality hits the emergency brake. Wind vanishes. Birds bail like they just got a text from God. Even the generator sounds like it's gargling its own balls. Tony stalks toward the beast, boots crunching loud enough to wake frozen mammoths. And the closer he gets, the wetter the sound becomes, like something inside is French kissing the gears with a tongue made of liquid nitrogen. He jams a mag light into the lower bowels, and the beam snags on a puddle that looks like molten mercury jerking off, thick, glowing, colder than absolute zero. And when he pokes it, the shit latches onto his glove like a horny octopus with separation anxiety. He tries scrubbing it off on his jeans, and it just spreads, sketching glowing mandalas across the denim like a demonic spirograph, interlocking vortices that pulse and writhe, while the crew watches with their sphincters clenched tighter than a banker's wallet at a soup kitchen. The dredge roars like a gut-shot titan. Floodlights strobe like a seizure at Burning Man, and then a voice, thin as razor wire and twice as sharp, leaks from the abyss. Not English, not Inuktitut, not even the screams of the damned, just pure linguistic cancer that tastes like burnt copper and old sins. Tony's face drains wider than a polar bear's asshole. Rick's muttering nope on infinite loop like a glitchy rosary. And suddenly the entire 300-ton colossus lurches forward on its own, chains whipping like Medusa's pubes. buckets clanging like the bells of Notre Dame during an exorcism, moving with no diesel, no operator, no goddamn invitation except something inside just told Newton to eat a dick and floored it. Rick climbs inside to check the gauges and disappears for so long the crew starts a GoFundMe for his therapy. When he finally hollers down, "Tony, haul your stubborn ass up here before I shit a glacier." His voice cracks like a 12-year-old discovering porn. Tony hauls up the ladder 2 rungs at a time, flashlight carving the gloom like a lightsaber in a cave. And there in the sluice box, buried under a century of Klondike crud and broken dreams, is a slab of metal that looks like it was forged in the asshole of a dying star. Not gold, not titanium, not onion-oxium, but something that makes the periodic table file a restraining order, etched with glyphs that rearrange themselves when you blink. Glowing with that same mercury sickness that's now fingering every weld like it's reading Braille. Tony brushes it, and the symbols slither under his fingertips like electric eels on LSD, spelling out coordinates to a place that doesn't exist on any map drawn by human hands. And for the first time since he told the Canadian Revenue Agency to gargle his balls, the man looks like he's about to puke frozen tequila. He orders full shutdown, voice flat as a frozen lake in March, tells the crew to pack up and pretend they're deaf, dumb, and blind. But by first light the slab's gone. Poof. Vanished like a hooker's dignity at closing time except for the claw marks in the steel deep enough to hide a wedding ring and a stench like scorched aluminum, old blood, and the farts of 1,000 dead miners. Tony sneaks back alone that night, lantern swinging like a noose in a ghost town, climbs inside with the determination of a man who once stared down a wolverine and won. And whatever he sees turns his beard the color of fresh printer paper, because next morning his Ram 3500 is still ticking from the drive, boots kicked off on the seat like he was changing into slippers for a nap, and a note scrawled in handwriting that looks like it was carved with a rusty ice pick. The dredge was always hungry. I fed it. Now it's full. Before the wind rips it from the dash and feeds it straight into the bucket line, like a communion wafer for the damned. Days hemorrhage into a week. Tony's AWOL. No iridium ping. No smoke signal. No body floating down the river with a pickaxe in its back. Rick tries running the claim, but every time they fire the dredge the hum returns. Deeper now, like the earth is clearing its throat with gravel and broken promises. Crew starts seeing shit that would make Lovecraft shit his pants. Footprints the size of a child's leading from the river into the machine and never coming out. Shadows that stretch 20 feet and move like oil on water. Wrenches rearranging themselves into perfect pentagrams when nobody's looking. Coffee mugs filling with that same glowing sludge overnight. One night the Jenny dies harder than a hooker's dreams, and the site plunges into black except for a single vein of light pulsing inside the dredge. The exact cadence of a human heart on its last cigarette. And when Rick finally grows a pair the size of cantaloupes and climbs back in, he finds another shard, smaller, hotter, etched. With Tony's initials like the metal birthed them in a fever dream that he hears the voice again. Clearer now. Tony's voice but filtered through a wood chipper in a graveyard. Tell Monica the real motherlode ain't yellow. It's silver, and it sings. And the hum swells until the dredge vibrates like a subwoofer at a Cannibal Corpse concert. Rick bolts, nearly snaps his femur on the ladder. And when he looks back the glow's gone but the footprints are fresh, leading deeper than the original. Blueprints say the machine goes, ending at a bulkhead that wasn't there yesterday. A bulkhead now covered in every glyph from the shards arranged into one massive sigil that looks less like decoration and more like a mouth mid-scream. Teeth made of light, tongue made of shadow. Now nobody goes near it after sunset. Nobody says Tony's name without spitting 3 times and crossing themselves with a pickaxe. Because every time the aurora bleeds green acid across the sky, the dredge runs itself. Buckets turning lazy and deliberate, pulling up pay dirt that glitters silver instead of gold. Pay dirt that hums when you touch it and rearranges itself into tiny replicas of the dredge when you look away. Locals swear that on the anniversary of Tony's disappearance, the river runs backward for exactly 13 minutes. The dogs refuse to cross the claim line, and the dredge's floodlights flicker on with no power, revealing a silhouette in the wheelhouse, tall, bearded, cap low, moving with the same bow-legged swagger Tony had when he was telling the world to eat his entire ass. Some swear he found the true Klondike motherlode, something left by miners who vanished in 1897 chasing rumors of star metal that granted wishes and took souls in the same breath. Others say the dredge was never just a machine. It was a cage for something that predates the gold rush by 10,000 years. And Tony broke the lock from the inside because he's too stubborn to be anyone's prisoner. A few old sourdoughs who still pan with bent spoons whisper that Tony didn't disappear. He ascended, became the claim the way a captain becomes the sea, except this sea has teeth made of bucket chains and an appetite for legends. And on the nights when the river runs uphill and the northern lights scream in frequencies only dogs and madmen can hear, if you press your ear to the cold steel, you can hear Tony's laugh, rough as broken glass and twice as sharp, echoing from the dark between the gears like he finally hit the jackpot, and the payout was just his name, his blood, every ounce of gold he ever loved, and a one-way ticket to whatever the hell lives at the bottom of the hole that never ends. The claim still limps along like a three-legged mule. Monica ships in fresh meat every spring with hazard pay and a priest, but nobody lasts longer than a payday. Shovels walk off into the bush never to be seen again. Fuel tanks empty overnight like vampires with a diesel fetish, and every greenhorn swears they see Tony at 4:17 a.m. shining a headlamp into the abyss that now lives where the sluice box used to end, beckoning with one gloved hand like he's got a secret worth more than riches and twice as fatal. A secret that starts with a hum and ends with your name etched in glowing silver on the inside of your eyelids. The dredge squats there like a rusted cathedral to hubris, icicles bleeding down its flanks like frozen tears, frostbite scars in the shape of runes that match the shards. And on the control panel, someone keeps etching new glyphs every new moon. Glyphs that burn to read. Glyphs that spell a warning in a language carved into the bedrock before humans learned to lie. Some veins don't bleed gold. Some veins bleed miners. Some veins bleed forever. And if you're dumb enough to linger past the witching hour, if the cold doesn't chase you off and the dark doesn't swallow you whole, and the hum doesn't stop your heart dead in its tracks, Tony's voice drips from the dark like molten slag straight from the earth's core. Room for one more, boys. The motherlode's deeper than you think, and it's got your name on the next bucket. And the Yukon wind rips the scream from your throat, folds it into a paper airplane, and flies it straight into the mouth of the dredge before you ever hit the ground.